episode of Sticks and Skins. Today, Lawrence and I are going to be going through our 2 round mock draft. It's going to be a really good time. It's going to be a couple of trades. But as you mentioned the last time, for those of you who watched,
Mm.
it's going to be a little bit quicker this time. And we're going to do 2 picks in a row. So I'll start. I'm going to do Carolina and Houston, and then we'll alternate 2 by 2 until it's done.
Yeah,
So
and we did do this over our phone most of it while working. So so
it's
but
really good.
yeah, we'll never do that. Never do the pre-work that way again.
Yeah, that sucked.
But yeah, we toughed through it. We are a week later than we thought it would be. That's okay. We are transitioning to a different schedule. Fridays will be our designated kind of like sports day, and then Tuesdays we'll try to do gaming conversations, all sorts of different things. And every once in a while we'll throw in a special episode like this Thursday after the first round. We'll be talking about our reactions to what transpired during the first round of the NFL draft.
Oh yeah, I honestly cannot wait.
Yes. And just to give a history of how long, like for me, the draft, like when I was in like middle school, we used to go on spring break to like Myrtle Beach and stuff in Ocean Island, the Carolinas. And then that always transpired with the draft. So on the way home, every single year, my parents would have to continually search the radio airways to find whatever station was carrying the draft so I could listen to it. And everyone else in the car totally loved having to listen to the draft.
The draft is awesome. It's like honestly, it is really one of my favorite things in football.
Yeah, it's all like not just like a bit like just NFL period, just like not knowing what's going to happen. There's always just every year there's jaw dropping things like what are they doing or
Yeah.
so yeah, it's like it's live drama. Nobody really knows what's happening. Like this year in particular,
Mm-hmm.
like where are the quarterbacks going? Like there's talk of like are the offensive tackles really just bad and they're being pushed out because people need tackles. So like there's so much intrigue about where people are going to go. There's still quarterbacks that have been traded. Like is this when Rodgers is finally going to get moved to the Jets? Is Lamar going to go to the Ravens? Are they making deals? Like there's so many moving pieces. Remember, like last year, AJ Brown got traded during the draft. Hollywood Brown got traded during the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So like what moves like that are we not anticipating that? Like nobody thought AJ Brown was getting traded, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's an Eagle.
Certainly not Mike Vrabel.
Right. So like yeah, it's so much fun to just not know what's happening and then just watch. Like I kind of hope the Bills trade out of it. Uh, Although I'd be like upset, like staying up the whole night, not picking anything.
Yeah, that would be weak.
But yeah. Anyway, yes, we had fun doing this mock draft. It is 2 rounds. We don't pretend to know a ton about everybody, but we are prepared in terms of like we looked at people whose job it is to do these things and saw a trend with certain players or positions and tried to kind of follow along with like the people know what they're doing and with our own insight and stuff of maybe picking a few oddballs here or there. But that's the draft.
Yeah. Honestly, though, because like there's always somebody, as you said, there's somebody who falls who are like, "Whoa, I can't believe he fell," or somebody
Mm-hmm.
gets taken, and I mean, usually it's the Raiders or somebody who's like, "Oh wow, I can't believe they took that person that early."
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, without further ado, Lawrence, I guess I'm on the clock, and you know what? My pick from this time didn't change from last time. I think the Panthers want a big guy. They want a strong guy. They want a guy that can move around. And they want Will Levis from the University of Kentucky. Plain and simple. Then Houston gets up and they're like, wait a minute. We don't want scrawny old Bryce Young. We're going to
Mm.
buck that trend. Houston goes C.J. Stroud because I mean, not to harp on this whole height thing, but it's just he's short and he's lean. If it was one or the other, it would be something, but it's both. And it's one
Mm.
hit from being broken. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I passed on Bryce Young for both those picks.
Yeah, and I mean it's easy to look at two who would consider retirement this past year.
I mean, that was part of
So
it.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, that has to be in the back of all these drafters' minds. That leads us to the Cardinals. Ye of the awful uniform unveil
Yeah, that
yesterday.
yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, it's like I heard somebody say it's a Nikeification of the NFL uniform, and if I hope the Bills don't do anything stupid like that.
So I said this to my wife. I wish the NFL would do it kind of like the NBA, where they have those,
City uniforms.
yeah, like that. I don't know. Like to me, that's cool. Or the ones where they have the players' nicknames on the back of the jersey, because all
Yeah,
the players. I don't know. I just feel like the NFL could spice it up so much more. But yeah, you're right. The Arizona ones were just plain.
yeah, and going from there, their pick, and he'll get to don this uniform. And if you didn't see that unveil, like that uniform will be what he holds up tomorrow, not tomorrow, next week with Roger Goodell, is Will Anderson, defensive end.
Uh,
So the
uh, Big
Cardinals
Will.
address that pass rusher. Leads us to the Colts. The Colts owner Ursay has made very clear that they intend on drafting a quarterback this year. After 3 straight years of trying to go to veteran route and seeing if that can fix things,
Smart.
so they go with a big swing. They take Anthony Richardson, who arguably has the highest ceiling in this quarterback class. So Richardson to the Colts.
Yeah, and I think that makes a ton of sense for them, just given the fact that they have Jonathan Taylor back there, and one, he can take a lot of
Mm-hmm.
pressure off of him early on. But and not that a lot of teams ever do this, but I mean, shoot, you talk about the option if the NFL ever decided, or teams did it. Gosh, that'd be a great
Mm-hmm.
combination. Um, all right, which means that there's still Bryce Young available, and the Raiders, they have waited and they can't wait anymore. So the Raiders move up 2 spots. They trade with Seattle. They only moved up 2 spots. So they only had to give up an additional third-round pick. So the Raiders, they're like, you know what? We'll take Bryce Young. Josh McDaniels thinks he's smarter than he is. He doesn't look very smart, and he probably isn't. He probably actually is, but for this case, he's not. So he takes Bryce Young, and he gets knocked out for his career first game of the season. But then the Lions are like, okay, whatever. Now we have Jalen Carter, and so I think all along we've taken some form of a defensive lineman for them, because I just,
Yeah.
yeah, one, it's a need, but two, I mean, with Hutchinson playing so well last year, it just seems like you get him another defensive, or somebody who could be a star, and the Lions could be really, really solid up front for a long time. So Jalen Carter, Lions.
Yep. And both those picks make sense. And like we said earlier, the Raiders doing probably head scratching things. That seems to continue with Bryce Young. That puts Seattle on the clock after the trade that you made at number 7. Uh, Seattle, I mean, this is kind of like a luxury pick for them. Bijan Robinson is in contention, but they're going to take what seems to be the consensus top corner right now after lots of reports. Devin Witherspoon, the corner, will be going to the Seattle. And then Atlanta at number 8. It's very, like, a lot of radio shows I listen to say don't let 1 year contracts affect what you need in the draft. So yes, they've added Campbell. Yes, they've added uh, other defensive line, but a lot of them are the 1 year deal.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to take Tyree Wilson, the edge defensive end, uh, to kind of learn from those veteran guys, but and he'll be ready to take over after they're gone.
Yeah. Which means the Bears, they've gone. They try to get some weapons for. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on the quarterback of
Field.
the Bears? There we go, Justin Fields. And they're like, you know what? what what could we really use? A bell cow. And so they see Bijan Robinson sitting right there, and they put him in there with Justin Fields. They traded for Allen Robinson. Yes, is that who traded, or was that Pittsburgh?
No, no, Pittsburgh traded for them. They got
Okay.
DJ Moore from the
Yes. Yes.
Panthers.
Yes, and so now the Bears, I think they have a complete offense. They got the running back, receiver, quarterback. So yeah, Bijan Robinson, which means last time we had Philly taking Robinson, he's unavailable, and so they just paid Hurts a boatload of money, and they don't want him to get hurt. Not to mention, they are likely probably going to stop doing that quarterback sneak here pretty soon for the same
Yeah,
reasons. And so they want to protect him. So Peter Skronsky, offensive tackle, taken by
mm,
Philly, number 10.
that makes sense on both ends. And I mean, it's been reported too the Bears are may not be done moving back. And you mentioned in our text chat that that's probably going to be a draft day thing in terms of who's there that maybe somebody wants to trade up for.
Mm-hmm.
If Jalen Carter slides down a little bit more because of his off-field stuff, would somebody trade up to 9?
Right.
So yeah, and then the Eagles, their offensive line is good but pretty old, so yeah, Skronsky makes a lot of sense there for them. That puts the Titan on the clock. We already mentioned him last year, the surprise trade of AJ Brown, not just for Brown's sake, but Mike Vrabel. So in that vein, they try to get whoever their
The main
quarterback
one?
might be. Yeah, the main vein. They
Main
get
vein.
what is widely considered to be the top wide receiver in this draft, Jackson Smith and Jigba, uh, to help Tannehill this year, but also whoever the quarterback may be in the future. That puts the Texans on the clock at 12. They've already taken C.J. Stroud at number 2, so obviously they don't need that. They're going to try to fortify their pass rush and get Will McDonald, the defensive end. So offense, defense for the Texans, first 2 picks in the top 12.
Hmm. Old McDonald had a farm, but Will doesn't. But he might.
Boom.
He gets drafted. He can afford a
I
farm.
mean, if they after the payday, he might be able to afford that.
Boom, baby. All right, Packers. Not Packers, Jets. But obviously, they're gonna they're gonna let Aaron Rodgers go. The Jets are gonna get Aaron Rodgers. It makes zero sense for either of them to not do it. So it'll just be this. Granted, it's a lot, I think, for someone who's approaching 40, has a lot of personality issues, but who
Mm-hmm.
can still probably sling it. I think last year was a bit of a aberration for Aaron, but who knows? So, yes, this is where the Jets trade for Aaron Rodgers. So the Packers are up, and they take the tight end Michael Mayer, just to give Jordan Love another threat to throw to. So they're doing for him what they really didn't do for Aaron Rodgers. And
Mm-hmm.
then New England, they've lost a lot of pieces. It could have gone offense, could have gone defense. I went defense because, as you said earlier, that Devin Witherspoon, I think, is now taking that overall consensus as top corner. But for the long time, it was Christian Gonzalez. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll just say the Patriots get arguably the top corner in the draft here at 14.
Yep, and the defense was pretty good last year, scoring 100 points. So adding another piece to it, and they really need somebody to just stop Diggs, no matter who the cornerback has been.
Mm-hmm.
Since Diggs has been there, he just lights them up.
Yep.
That puts the Packers back on the clock after their trade, and this is their original first round pick after picking up the Jets at 13. So you already gave Love a weapon in Michael Mayer. Bakhtiari is closing on the end of his career. So with that in mind, the Packers are probably surprised to see Paris Johnson here. So they go ahead and take him, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State.
Big
Uh,
old Paris Johnson.
so they get Love a safety valve and they get him a
Big
protector. The
Johnson.
first 2 picks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those shirts and back in the day. Everyone loved Big Johnson. And that brings us to the Commanders. Those the team formerly, well, not formerly, to be formerly owned by everyone's favorite owner.
Seriously, he's the worst.
Yeah. So good riddance to him. But with that, the Commanders they make kind of maybe the first real surprising pick of the first round. They're going to take Hendon Hooker, quarterback out of Tennessee.
What? What? What?
They
Yeah.
can say all they want about Sam Howell being the guy. They can't possibly think that. They
No.
learned their lesson. Like they took RG3 and then in 3rd round they took Kirk Cousins. So this franchise has a history of like doubling up on the most important position,
Mhm.
and he may not be able to play right away, and that's fine. They have him. They have Jacoby Brissett, and then when Hooker's ready, he has the potential to take over that team.
I think this makes a lot of sense because you're right. Sam Howell, like, no.
No matter what they say, that's just what else are they going to say?
Right. Oh, we have no faith in him, so we're definitely going to draft somebody.
Yeah, right. So the first surprise, fifth quarterback off the board, 16 the Commanders.
All right. So now we're to Pittsburgh. Actually, hang on a second. Before we move on to Pittsburgh, I wonder if he is selling the team. They haven't decided on an owner, right?
One is final, like an offer has been accepted. The owners just have to vote and okay it.
Because if I'm that guy, if I'm that new owner, I do not want them drafting anybody without my say so.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I wonder how it's going to go because that is a real wild card. Because a new owner could come and say, "Nope, I have no faith in Sam Howell. We're trading up, and I want a top 5 quarterback."
Yeah, and just to play off that, uh, Ron Rivera he comes every week and does an interview with Moving the Chains,
Mm-hmm.
and they have asked about like when are you going to extend Chase Young, and Rivera has openly admitted about like, well, ownership's up there. They don't know. They don't want to commit a long-term deal to that if the owner doesn't want that. So it's already like affected. The owner thing has already been confirmed by Rivera. So you're absolutely right that this could also like they could be a real wild card of like who
Mm-hmm.
knows what they're gonna do.
Yeah. All right, on to Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh, they like defense. So there's like certain teams, right, that just seem to always go defense. Us,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah,
Pittsburgh. But yeah, so here I have them taking Kalijah Cansey. Again, another guy who, depending on who you talk to, is arguably the best, or a top 3 defensive tackle in this draft. Sort of like everyone will compare him to Aaron Donald, but
mm-hmm.
we'll just wait and see. But he has a lot of upside. And then the Lions, so they obviously went with that defensive tackle Jalen Carter earlier on. They got rid of, oh my god, I always blank on his
Hawkinson.
Hawkinson, and so they looked to replace him. And honestly, we made this pick before that news of Jalen. Is it Anderson?
Jimmy. Yeah.
Yeah, getting suspended for the first 6 games. So this stays the tight end Dalton Kincaid because. Wow, I am having a terrible time remembering anybody's name right now. The quarterback for the Lions.
Goff.
There we go. Now Goff has somebody else to throw to for those first 6 games. Holy cow, this is going to be a long rest of the draft. My brain keeps operating at such a poor pace. So, yes, Kalijah Cansey for the Steelers at 17 and Dalton Kincaid for the Lions at 18.
Yeah, I mean, and then the Lions also, Jameson Williams is out the first 6 weeks of the year as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they kind of got hit a little hard.
That's
3
what
players.
That's what I was thinking of.
Jameson Williams. Samsonite. I was way off.
Trash. Oh,
Yeah.
man. Anyways.
But yeah. So that makes they need. And I think that's partially why the Lions traded last year. They knew they couldn't pay Hawkinson, and this seems to be a fairly good tight end class. I think they knew, hey, we can get a cheap replacement and save money and go elsewhere with that.
Mm-hmm.
That leads us to the Buccaneers, who still have a pretty decent team on paper. If they get decent quarterback play, it's not like they're going to be a bad team. But their offensive line needs some help. Whoever the quarterback may be, Trask or Baker, they need protection.
I keep forgetting about Baker.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do. It's his 4th team in like a year. So they go Darnell Wright, offensive tackle out of Tennessee.
Nice.
There are reports about him being lazy. He did really well against the Bamas of the world. So I don't know. I feel like this time of year, like everyone's just looking for negative things. So
Right.
Lazy kind of be like, well, seems like an easy thing to just throw up there. And that puts Seattle back on the clock, who've already had an impact on this draft. They drafted Devin Witherspoon, a corner. They're going to go back to the defense and draft Miles Murphy, edge defensive end, and really make that defense truly formidable with a really young, powerful nucleus.
Yep. All right, so we haven't had any receivers yet. Obviously, it's going to change right now. So with the Chargers, they got Mike Williams, and wow,
Keenan Allen.
there we go, Keenan Allen. But he had to redo his deal. He's been injured. He's getting up there in age, and so they get somebody who has a little bit, I think, different skill set than him, which is what they need because Mike Williams, he's a big, tall guy, has huge catch radius, and so Jordan Addison, who they take here to as a an eventual. At first, he'll just work alongside those two guys as their third receiver, but I can see him in the next 2-3 years taking over for Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
And then you get to Baltimore, so they just signed OBJ. They still haven't really done anything with Lamar, but I think they show Lamar that they're all in, and they get him another receiver, Quentin Johnston. To just say, hey, like, we got your running backs, we got you some receivers, you obviously have your tight end and Andrews, like, just sign the deal. Even Jalen Hurts didn't get a fully guaranteed deal. Like, shut up.
Right. Yeah.
And honestly, like, if I'm the bar, at some point, you're just gonna have to just stop, right? Like, you're not like Mahomes didn't, Allen didn't, Hurts didn't. Like, they're three. I mean, Burrow won't. Like, they're the four arguably best quarterbacks in the league. Like, you're not getting it. Like, just deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, you're still going to get a big chunk of money.
Yeah. So, but again, I think Baltimore, shows that they're a bit more committed to him, and they take Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, and I like the Chargers. What you have them doing, continuing to put weapons in front of Herbert. I wish the Bills would do that with Allen. They just keep piecemealing weapons besides Diggs together with him, but that's neither here nor there. That brings us to the Vikings. They would have really liked to see Hooker fall to them. I think if he falls further when I have him going, the Vikings could be a really good landing spot for him where he can just go behind Cousins, no pressure, then take over for him with a pretty solid offense.
Mm-hmm.
But with him not on the board, their defense was absolutely horrendous last year. So they're going to go Brian Breesy, the defensive tackle, to help fortify that defensive line. Their run defense was epically bad last year. So hopefully they're hoping that he can help fix that. And then that puts the Jaguars on the clock. Surprisingly, into the second round of the playoffs. They go defense as well, knowing in the AFC they can never have too many cornerbacks to stop all those quarterbacks you already mentioned, who are all in the AFC, because they are just overloaded with quarterback talent. Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State, the corner, goes to the Jaguars.
Boom. All right, well, the Giants, they continue to try to help Danny Jones, Danny Dimes, as his friends call him. So I will call him Dan Jones. And they take Zay Flowers, so 3 straight picks for me, receiver. And that stops here because now we get to Dallas, and Jerry, he loves him some flash, some whatever. So he's like, surprise trade, and Dallas trades for Austin Eckler from the Chargers, and they just essentially swap this pick. Eckler's probably got 3 more solid years in him, and yeah, they just get Dak, another guy that they can plug in there, catch passes out of the backfield, especially because Zeke's gone. It's going to take Pollard a minute to get up to speed. So trade, and then the Chargers, they're going to immediately take his replacement. They're not trying to mess with anything, and they take Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. Gang, Lawrence, you did it to me last time. All right. This
I was going to say, this is not there. So, surprise. Yeah. I'm not going to do the Dexter line there. Surprise! We all know the end of that. All right, that puts the Bills on the clock. Much as I just said it, man, I hope the Bills give Josh Allen weapons. That's not what they do. And this is who you wanted the Bills to take in the very first mock draft we did, and I did not take him. And if they're going to go defense, I mean, at this point, I'd be all right with this pick, considering what the Bills have at the position. They go Brian Branch to safety from Alabama, who has the versatility to kind of be that big and nickel, the Buffalo nickel, as they like to call it.
Boom.
And part of the thinking behind this is if they're not going to, at this point, they don't have a linebacker to fill in for Edmonds. Can he be somebody that is on the nickel field so we still have Hyde, Poyer at safety? Then he goes a linebacker with Milano.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be part of the thinking there. So they go defense as usual, and hopefully they start to show against good offenses and quarterbacks. The Bengals really upset that Brian Branch just went there after losing both of their safeties in free agency.
Good.
But they know keeping Burrow upright is the thing to do. And maybe another surprise pick here, Cody Mock, the offensive lineman. And I put offensive line because he has played every position and then did some center at the pre-draft stuff so he could show, hey, I can actually do it. Cody Mock, the big, brute offensive lineman who a lot of like people, Paul Alexander, who's like a former offensive line coach who does like a lot of media stuff around the draft, says that he is the best offensive lineman in the draft.
Gotcha. Well,
So-
I mean, if that is the case, that would be a steal for the Bengals.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, New Orleans. So this is the pick they got from from San Francisco through Miami and Denver. So this pick came a long way to get to New Orleans. We'll just say that. And with it, they're going to take
Hold on, we're going to call this a corner pick. All right, go from there.
what?
You said it came from a lot of different places, like the corner, street corner.
Your mom. She's a nice lady. But Deontay Banks, the corner, out of Maryland, I believe.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a. Thought he might go higher, so that's a good pickup there for the Saint.
Yeah, and real talk, there's a couple of these guys, because we were doing it on our phone in a way we kind of forgot about. So, because the Phillies going to take Lucas Van Ness, a guy that I will freely admit who likely will go much sooner in the draft. But if he does fall, I cannot see him getting past Philly, because he would fill, he's from everything I read, is going to be a really solid pass rusher. And so for them, they already took their offensive lineman, so they just go up to the other side of the ball and Lucas Van Ness. But again, I freely admit that he likely won't be here come Thursday.
And we say that, but you honestly never know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you look at what we did, like we took a pretty good amount of wide receivers, good amount of pass rushers, corners.
Mm-hmm.
So like it all depends. Like when does the run on these positions start?
Right.
So that's when people start like they may move up and take someone earlier than they should because they're like, well, the drop off from there to the next guy is a couple rounds. So yeah, we may have to reach a little bit. So that's another great part of the draft is like when do those things happen and when do people start panicking and moving up and getting that?
Right.
All right, and that puts the Chiefs on the clock at 31 because the Dolphins cheated and don't have a first round pick. So there's only Dolphins trash. That puts the Chiefs, who always seem to do real well at drafting at this spot. They're going to continue to put weapons around Pat Mahomes. They're going to go Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver out of Tennessee. Just making them even stronger. I hate them.
Sick.
So that's the end of the first round. Not much trade. I don't know if there's going to be much trades. With this seems to be like the talent seems to be more like of a depth thing. So is there really that top end people that you're going to I got to really move up for them? I don't know. But that leads us to the second round. The Steelers had the first pick of the second round. They had that pick from Chicago. I believe that is in the Chase Claypool trade. I don't know that for sure. That's the only trade I can think about that they have done. But the Steelers, glad to be at the top of the first round. They went typical Steelers. With your pick, you had them taking Kalijah Cansey. I had them going also traditional Steelers. Offensive lineman, DeJuan Jones at Ohio State.
Sick. All right. Well, second round, the teams get less time. We get less time. Also, yeah. So Houston drafted a quarterback. So they take tight end Sam Laporta. Just trying to help that guy out. Give him somebody else to throw to. Everyone says a tight end is a quarterback's safety blanket. Well, here we go.
Mhm.
And then Arizona, that I'm not so sure on Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Josh Downs, just trying to help that offense because Kyler he should have had enough, but and this again, you talk about people who could be traded. I mean, this is a perfect time for somebody like DeAndre Hopkins to get let go for a second round pick. Yeah,
Yeah.
Laporta for the Texans and Downs for the Cardinals.
Yeah. And Dowd is somebody that I actually really like and wouldn't mind him for the Bills. So, yeah, solid pick there. We continue moving along. We have a trade. The Bills, having taken their safety, go against what I just said about him being a linebacker. Like, nah, we're gonna go traditional here because you forwarded something about him working with Luke Kuechly, the connection there with him and McDermott when he was at McDermott was asked about him at a press conference this week when OTA started. He was very coy, was smiling about his love of him. So the Bills trade up with the Colts to go to number 35 and take Jack Campbell, linebacker out of Iowa,
Big Jack.
to continue the reinforcement of the defense.
Yeah, don't help the offense. Sick.
That puts the Rams on the clock. They finally get to pick. They say, we don't want to F those picks anymore. Let's actually draft here. Uh, if I could see them being a trade down person because they need more picks, but they just traded Ramsey. They need some corner help. They're going to go Kelly Ringo, cornerback.
Nice. All right. So what? I'm up. Yes. So Seattle, they did re-sign. Don't don't say it. I got this. Bobby Wagner,
Right.
there at middle linebacker. However, he's sort of edges out about Atlanta. He's not the long-term solution. So they take Drew Sanders here from Arkansas. And then the Raiders, they took a quarterback, just like most teams, they want to protect him. So then they take Anton Harris, the offensive tackle.
Well, props to you for remembering that. So
Thanks.
our brain has been fixed.
No.
Panthers back on the clock. Uh, you already gave them Will Levis, the beastly quarterback. So they're gonna give him a nice, pretty weapon to throw to. Marvin Mims, wide receiver out of Oklahoma,
Mm.
and the Saints. We talked about in our last episode. We talked about their love of tight ends and how Jimmy Graham screwed himself over. They go with probably one of the just biggest tight ends and like the just a specimen in Darnell Washington, tight end out of Georgia.
All right. That's my wife. Um, all right. So you just left us. All right. So 41, Tennessee. So Tennessee, Nolan Smith. He's hung around long enough, and he goes. He goes here. He's quick. He's fast, and I think he would be a great fit for the Titans. And then with the Jets, they just traded for Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to be useless to you if he's in the dirt. So they're going to draft offensive tackle Roderick Jones.
Well, that makes sense. And Nolan Smith, we had him going
To us.
Bills, yeah, and then the Bills traded into the first round to get Jack Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and the Jets are on the clock again. They don't have to rush things. They had two picks in a row, so they're going to continue to fortify their defense, which is already pretty strong. And take defensive tackle Jacqueline Roy out of LSU. Falcons are on the clock next. We talked about them needing weapons for whoever plays quarterback for them. So they go Jonathan Mingo, the Ole Miss wide receiver at
Ooh,
44.
we like that. And so Green Bay, and honestly, this guy probably could go a little bit sooner. I think a lot of people have him as a top five corner, but the Packers take Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback. And then the Patriots, the Patriots do Patriots things. That's pretty much how it goes. But as you said earlier about contending with all of these quarterbacks, well, the New England's going to have a really tough time because they're going to have three of them in their division. Yeah, I do think Tua is a solid quarterback when he's on the field. If Rodgers goes to the Jets, and obviously Rodgers, so they continue to go defense. Antonio Johnson, the safety out of A&M.
Yeah. All right, and that makes sense. And yeah, he has struggled against this, and yeah, if Tua can just stay healthy, you saw what they could do with the weapons they have. So yeah, they need defensive help. Commanders back on the clock again, a wild card that we talked about earlier. Who knows what they're going to do? Maybe they'll package this pick to move up in the first round to get a quarterback. But we're not going to predict that yet, so they're going to stick where they are and draft cornerback Julius Brents out of Kansas State. The Lions are back on the clock. They like defense, they like linebacker, so they go Trenton Simpson. Somebody who probably might go higher than that, so they're happy to see him fall to them at 48.
Yep, and same thing with Pittsburgh. Osiris Torrance is, again, arguably one of the best guards in the draft, but he's available at 49, and so that's what the Steelers go with. Osiris Torrance out of Florida, and then Tampa Bay, they go Felix Anudike Uzama.
Very good.
Defensive end. Look at that. I can say words. Defensive end.
Yeah. And that's one of those like hyphenated ones with lots of vowels that isn't easy to say. So no mocking it. That was a good one. Like you nailed your first try. So props to that. Puts the Dolphins on the clock, their first pick, because again, they cheated and lost their first round pick. Part of the reason there's questions at quarterback for them is because Tua just keeps getting rocked. So they need, after all their investment in weapons and stuff, maybe they need to start investing in the offensive line.
Yeah.
So they take arguably the best center in the draft, John Michael.
Arguing here.
Yeah, we like to argue.
Yeah,
listen to us play Warzone or Rocket League. John Michael Schmitz, the center out of Minnesota. Seattle's back on the clock. Guess what they're doing? They're going back to defense. They're going to go to Jim Harbaugh's backyard and take Mozzie Smith, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, who had a top 30 visit with the Bills this week.
Gotcha. All right, and so the Bears been doing some stuff on offense, and now they go defense and take Kelly Ringo, cornerback. What?
No, just when you said they've been doing stuff, I'm like, yeah, you do stuff on your knees. Boom, boom.
Kelly Ringo. And then the Chargers are up. And so they already traded with Dallas. And they took the running back, took the receiver. And so now they take Joe Tippmann. Tippmann.
Yeah, center there that I wouldn't mind the Bills taking to start preparing for future without Mitch Morse.
Yeah, I mean, at least on a couple of, ESPN anyways, he's the top ranked center, so falls to them here at 54.
Good pick there. The Lions back on the clock, and they lost Jamal Williams this offseason to the Saints. So they're going to go to the offensive side and take Zach Charbonnet, the running back out of UCLA. An offense that was pretty good last year, continue to add pieces to that. And the Jaguars, who went defense for their first pick, are going to go to the offensive side this time. Yes, they franchise tag Evan Ingram, but are they willing to give him a long-term deal at that rate? Maybe not, so they take Luke Musgrave, tight end here.
Yeah, no, those are good picks. Okay, what do we got?
Giants.
The Giants. And so, all right, so the Giants, they went receiver before, but again, they continue to try to help Danny Dimes, and so they take tight end here, Brenton Strange. And then we have Dallas and Lawrence. You have to help me with this next one.
You had Jaden Reed, wide receiver.
Yes, Jaden Reed. There we go. So Dallas, obviously they traded for Eckler, but their defense is pretty solid, and I do think that Jerry likes the flash of the offense, and so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Jaden Reed, receiver.
Yep, makes sense for them. Colts back on the clock. They took a big swing at quarterback, and just like we see often, they're going to give him a friend at tight end here. Another Luke, this time Schumacher, tight end going to the Colts. That brings us to the Bengals. I mentioned earlier how they were mad the Bills took Brian Branch one pick ahead of them. Not to fear, there's another safety here. They take Ronnie Hickman at safety to try to help fill the loss of their two starting safeties from their team last year.
Nice. All right, my last two picks. Okay, so we have the Bears. They went defense before. They go defense again. They take safety Sidney Brown out of Illinois. And then Philadelphia, in the previous draft, we had them taking a running back at 10. They couldn't do that this time, but they do get a running back here. Somebody that I know RG3 loves is Tajay Spears, running back out of Tulane.
Yep. And the Eagles add to their already disgusting offense. Is with the Chiefs, they just took a wide receiver and they continue to work on their offensive line. They already got some tackles they got this offseason, so they're going to focus on the interior. And they go with Steve Avila, the interior offensive line. He can play guard and center, so even if he doesn't start, having that guy who can swing into either guard spot is what you need in today's NFL when you only carry 7-8 linemen on game day.
Right. Yeah.
And that is a wrap on our 2-round mock draft.
Nice.
We nailed that.
Man,
just over 40 minutes.
I mean, if we get like 25% right, that wouldn't be bad. Probably as good as like McShay.
Right. And to me, it's like not necessarily who. Like if we get 60% of the players in the right round, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
But Tuesday, right?
Yeah, Tuesday we'll be back on. We'll be talking. We're going to go over the state of all the big video game companies, and we'll start with Sony on Tuesday. What you can expect from these shows the next few weeks on the video game side of it is going to be like a look at the system itself, like where does it stand, how long has it been out, what do we expect in future iterations. We're going to look at controller because when you're playing the games, what do you use? Use a controller. We'll see how they've advanced. In some cases, I think things have regressed. Other cases, it's gotten a lot better. We're going to look at their main franchise, like why are you buying the system in the first place, see what's going on there, preview the future. And like, if you missed it, Sony has a patent now for an interesting piece of their controller, so teaser there to tune in on Tuesday for our overview of Sony.
Nice. Yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
And then we'll be doing a Thursday special after the first round of the draft. It's not gonna be a huge thing, but just to go winners, losers, what we were surprised by, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then Friday we'll be watching the draft. At least I will be, second and third round.
Yeah, same.
So we'll let you know Thursday what we're going to do there. But
yeah,
that's a wrap for us tonight. It is for Corey Dungan. I am Lawrence Foster. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, you can rewatch this episode as many times as you want on our YouTube channel. By draft day, we will have a Twitter handle, and maybe we'll end up posting some of these mock drafts and other thoughts in short form writing pieces on a website at some point.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you all later.
Goodbye.